Alright, I think we are live. I just need to adjust a few things with the live stream really quick. Alright, we are ready to begin. So, welcome everyone to the premiere of Fate Extella Link. So, we're finally getting around to the sequel to one of my favorite Let's Plays I've ever done, if you guys had an opportunity to watch it. I absolutely adored Fate Extella, and my girlfriend going through and finishing it recently, we did all the side stories together. She played it on the Switch version, while I just topped off the PS4 version that I did the Let's Play of. And everything about that game was catered basically for me to just love it without any doubt whatsoever. So here we have the sequel released a year after the English version of the first game, and almost a full 2 years after the original game. So they took their time with it. The big claims to fame with this game is that they have definitely given us new assets, such as better graphics, and yes, I wanted to start a new game. So we have better graphics, we have totally redesigned character models. The in-game portraits actually have animations now, so the eyes and mouths move, which is pretty cool. I'm going to be starting a new game. Obviously we're going to the female protagonist, because if you're going to be boring either way, you might as well be cute. And apparently she has a default name now, which I cannot read, so we're just going to accept that instead of attempting to name her Ayaka Saijo, or whatever, the protagonist from Prototype, which is what I named the character in Extella. Actually, in my playthrough of Extra and in Extella. Hey, Kuma Bear! Thank you so much for joining us. This game is brand new, so even though I haven't done any test playing with it, I'm jumping on the bandwagon right away. So I hope that my knowledge of the previous game will help me through this a little bit. But I know just from what I've seen so far, they have changed a little bit. So also the final caveat I'd like to point out, this is definitely going to impact your impression of how this game looks, is that this is the Vita version again. So just like how I started the first Extella Let's Play, I'm going to be doing the first route or so on the Japanese Vita version, and I'll continue to top off the game on the English PS4 version when it comes out. Oh my god! Guys, I'm gonna cry. Look at this precious child. This is everything that I wanted out of life. Oh my god. This is the whole game right here, is just tiny Altera living in a peaceful version of Seraph. That's all I wanted. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I played the original game. I did a full Let's Play on the I started it, I played it through all the way in the Japanese Vita version, and then played it all the way through in the English PS4 version. I'm not sure how I feel about this game being an improvement so far with what I've played, but we'll talk about that as we get to it. Hey, look, it's Attack Program Senpai. He gets a portrait and everything. I apologize if there's a lot of throat clearing throughout this. I'm doing my best to mitigate that as much as possible, but the fact still remains that I got sick right at the beginning of MomoCon and had a terrible time fighting it off because I was trying to push myself through the con to actually get things done. So let's see what happens if I do this. I guess it's the same either way. Use a command seal, and then Charlemagne comes to rescue you, which is pretty much how I figured this opening would begin. Also, I'm a little bit salty that the little loading icon there does not have the servant portraits again, because that was a nice touch in the previous game. Yeah, you can definitely tell with the graphics, because this is the Vita version, that there's a whole layer of textures that's missing from the attack programs there. But it doesn't look terrible. I definitely feel like they tried to optimize this one for the PS4 version, which is definitely ideal, because even the most hardcore Fate fans I know that played the previous game definitely griped about the lack of visual flair and how the PS4 version and Switch versions ran at a great 60 frames per second, but the character models were just not that good. So here's the example of what I talked about where the portraits actually have animations now. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, that doesn't actually look too good. It looks kind of ugly. It's actually just because Charlemagne just looks weird. So Charlemagne does not have the most charismatic looking face, I feel like. So the mouth and eye movements is not very flattering to him. But when we get to Nero and Tamamo again, you'll definitely see how this is an improvement. I wasn't 100% sold on it at first, but again, when you see the side-by-side comparison, you'll really be like, oh wow, this actually adds a lot to it. Reminds me a lot of when me and Michelle transitioned from playing Danganronpa 2 to playing 999, and how 999 had like actual animated sprites like that. Okay, so we're in gameplay now. So we're playing as Charlemagne, who is again a saber class and a brand new character for this game, and he has quite a few nice flashy attacks, including some ice attacks that he uses, as well as a he has sort of a Final Fantasy 15 like multi-weapon ability going on there. And so here's one of my biggest gripes about the gameplay so far. They have really dumbed down the combat sandbox. And what they've done is they have allocated some of your special combo moves to hold R1 and hit one of the face buttons. And I'm a bit salty about that. I mean, that's what worked for Dragon Quest Heroes, but that's a very different type of Musou game with a very different, with a lot of different elements to it. The other thing I don't like so much is the camera is kind of, there's a lot of momentum to with the camera movements, so you kind of just have to like, just tap the analog stick in one direction. Oh, the block button is still the same, I just totally failed the blocking there. So I don't much care for the fact that they've done that. That was one of the things that people really hated about Dynasty Warriors 9 as well, is that they advocated to just go with the, you know, hold the shoulder button and then you just pick a combo finisher instead of, you know, actually having to pick combos. And that means that there's going to be multiple different abilities we can equip, which also means that we're not going to have the full access to each character's combat sandbox at a time, which is pretty aggravating. You know, it's not going to be like, it'll be more like the older boss rush games almost, where you just equipped an ability instead of having the entire combat sandbox available to you over the course of the game. I'm sorry, I need to clear my throat again. Okay, much better. So, unfortunately I can't read these tutorials, but it seems like the moon drive gauge is different this time around. There also does not appear to be an Extella maneuver the way we traditionally knew about the Extella maneuver from the first game, but you do have this gauge that fills up on the side, and that appears to be the moon drive gauge, so I'm using that right now. And similar to, I guess you could say, the death blow thing from Berserk and the Band of the Hawk, we have to actually fill up that gauge in order to do our special move. So you guys will see that pretty soon. Again, we're slowly just getting more and more abilities, and we're getting more powerful aggressors as this tutorial goes on. So let's go ahead and use R2. Come on. Trying to actually use the ability now. It might be like a context thing. One of the things I didn't like at first as well is that they have bound the dash button to circle, which again is probably just for the sake of the just for the sake of the fact that they've added these auto abilities like that you can just cast anytime you like. Again, not a big fan of that, but at least I was almost worried the dashing was not even in the game because I didn't want to accidentally press circle and then have the okay, so here's his finisher with his gauge there, which is pretty cool. Again, it's not quite his Noble Phantasm, but we'll get that soon enough. That's a lot of really big aggressors. Definitely not what we're used to fighting in the previous game, that's for sure. So I've used the lock-on feature there. So trying L and X. There we go, there's our Noble Phantasm. There's going to be a little bit of awkwardness with the controls as well, being that we're expected to use the touchscreen with the Vita version, so it's giving us controls as to how to use the touchscreen, but we're actually using a DualShock 4 this time around, so... Sweet! Charlemagne's pretty cool. I noticed that when you're dashing like that, you slowly fall towards the ground, which is probably intentional, so you couldn't dash infinitely like you could in the previous game. Also, just from what I've seen, unless I've just been doing it wrong, the dash and then heavy attack does not clear out light units as well as it did in the previous game, which was, again, probably intentional because that was sort of the way that we abused the dash ability to increase our the gauges that spawned the aggressors more quickly. Because it didn't make much sense to beat up on the enemies the normal way. Tiny Altera looks so frightened. Again, I'm not sure what's happening here. She may be having like a traumatic memory or something. So, I did the unboxing video for the limited edition, so if you guys have not watched that yet, definitely go check that out. And the limited edition for this game is awesome. It even includes a Mahjong set, which I've never played Mahjong before, so I'm pretty excited about that. It also has the soundtrack, which is amazing, considering the first game did not come with a physical CD soundtrack. And from what I heard with the soundtrack, I was adding some of the songs to the unboxing video. It's really good. Some of it is definitely a much different style compared to the previous game, but the previous game's soundtrack was nearly perfect anyway. It's such a crime that we didn't get a physical release of that soundtrack. But you can at least listen to it in the game itself. Now, the soundtrack for this game feels almost like it came from a different game and altogether. It feels very... It's got like the full orchestra going on. It's got a lot more vocals. Like it's awesome, but it just doesn't... Right now, it doesn't feel like it quite fits the theme of the game, but I'm sure it'll grow on me as it goes on. Just for its sheer quality alone. Hearing Charlemagne pronounced in Japanese is also hilarious. Alright, Kuma Bear, see you later. Yeah, Charlemagne as a servant was something that we talked about quite a bit with the guys I do the Type Moon panel with. Whenever we always get the question of, you know, who would you like to see as a servant, and then obviously those questions kind of went away when Grand Order came out and introduced so many different influential figures as servants. Where we're like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. So did the people that made Fate Grand Order, because they did it. And Charlemagne was one of the ones that had not been done that we always talked about. So this is what I was talking about before, where now that we get to see Nero and Tamamo bickering again, you really get to see how much nicer the portraits look with the animations there. Again, there's a little bit of... You can definitely see the edges of the model a little bit more because they have the motion. And I'm sure these models will look a lot better in the PS4 version. But I still think it looks good. You can't deny that the portraits in Extella, even from the first game, have just been absolutely incredible. Smug Umu face. These two have probably been bickering since the end of the previous game, I'm sure. Meanwhile, we're just like, can you two just shut up and get along? Yeah, now you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where, like, it's not that the fact that their faces are animated is bad, it's just Charlemagne. Like, Charlemagne just does not look that good compared to Nero and Tamamo. It really reminds me a lot of 999 or of BlazBlue, even, with those animated portraits. Say that again, Nero. Say Charlemagne's name again. They probably don't like that he's the new top shit in town. So attack programs are starting to show up, but we really don't know who our enemy is yet. In the first game, it was made pretty clear that Nero and Tamamo were having a civil war. So we have a brand new concept for Extella Link, and I guess I shouldn't say it's a brand new concept, but we have this town that we own. It's sort of like our hub area, and we actually get to walk around as the Master, very similar to the original Fate Extra games. You have the same walk cycle and character animations and everything, and this is how we adjust our setup and prepare for the next fight. I don't know what this whole mansion is supposed to be based on or anything, but this is essentially our my room. This is our domain for this game, similar to how Nero and Tamamo and even Altera had their own areas that they ruled over. This is sort of that version of that for Extella Link. I'm not sure what the storyline reasons are for that. I'm sure I'll understand when the English version comes out or when somebody provides me with the translation. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and explore. And again, I can't say this is something that I exclusively like about Extella Link because it talks about all the options you have. Because I sort of liked how the first game's interface was very simple and very straightforward. You didn't have to do all this meaningless busy work. Also, her outfit is really cute. She doesn't believe in pants, but who can blame her? So as you can see on the mini-map there's 3 different areas we can go to. The first one over here is where we actually finish our equipment setup with our servant and we deploy into the next battle. So you can see there's the next battle, normal difficulty, we'd be playing as Charlemagne, etc., etc. So we can equip our different code casts and our passive skills here. Of course, I'm not going to do that quite yet because I want to explore the rest of this area. Whoops, did not mean to do that. I didn't mean to go all the way back to the main menu. I probably could have just hit the X button. It would have worked out just fine, but I went too far. Okay, anyway, where were we? So, and the other thing that's cool is the servants are actually, like, just roaming around and living in this space, so we can actually kind of talk to them as we see fit, which I think is really cool. But again, I kind of don't think this is especially necessary because everything about the first game was so quick and concise, and it just worked. Like all the menus, the interface, even the sound effect that it would make when you would click on something in the menu was just satisfying, and it just felt really well designed. So this is the dormitory, which I'm assuming is going to be where all of the different servants are going to be boarded in. So on this floor, Tamamo is there, Nero and Charlemagne are on this floor. So eventually we'll just collect all of them, and this is sort of like the My Room type scenarios where we get to increase our bonds with them and talk to them. So we can go into Nero's room and we can talk to her, which is a pretty cool concept. I doubt I'll make any real progress on this in the Japanese version when I don't know what they want or what they are asking of me or anything. But it's pretty cool. 3 different conversations I can have with her. Oh, look at that blushy face. Brilliant. And then we can look at her actual stats and everything, including there's her stats right here. We can look at her, let's see, all of her voice lines exactly like in the first game. And then I think we have the viewer that shows the character model and everything. Glorious! Glorious Umu. Alright, let's go ahead and leave here. And then the final place over here is where we actually buy our code casts, equip our passive skills, and change our wardrobe for our servants. So, so Charlemagne's got a few things to say here. I guess we'll go ahead and talk through that. But I also want to swap servants into Nero for this first encounter instead of using Charlemagne. So let's go ahead and equip our first formal wear for our code cast. So we just have a couple of heals on this, which is pretty nice. 5 heals is pretty good for our starting equipment. So this is where we get to select what servant we're going to take into battle, which I think is pretty cool. It probably also means that there's only going to be one main story mode in this game, as opposed to different routes like in the previous game, which I guess makes sense, but I can't deny how much I love the way that the previous game was done. Nero seems happy about us picking her as usual. I don't want to look at that anymore. We have her outfits. Standard, and then Umu! The one with the tiny crown, which is adorable. We can make her Umu on cue. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and get into our first real fight. I'm getting a lot of vibes from like Dragon Quest Heroes 2 from this game, which is not necessarily a good thing because I know a lot of people said that that was a huge improvement over the previous game, but the hub world, the casting of the abilities, a lot of those different things just kind of remind me of it. And maybe it's just the fact that it's a Vita port, and again, just like Dragon Quest Heroes 2, the Vita port for that game suffered quite a bit, although I think it holds up better than some other Vita conversions. The loading screens are obviously going to be longer in this version than they are on the PS4 version. Oh look, it's Karna. He does not look happy. Domino acting surprised at everything that happens to her. He's gonna try to heck us up. I guess we can hear like Tomo's thoughts, I guess, when she says something like that. Gee, I wonder who they could be. Smug face. Okay, let's go ahead and get into our first real fight. This is a pretty awesome looking stage, which obviously appears to be owned by Nero, thanks to the Roman aesthetic. And her trying to grapple with that lion in the center, being like, "Let me see what you have in your mouth." Okay. So again, the combat sandbox is really simplified, so certain moves like the spinning move that I've known to do in the previous game, highly... Oh, come on! I'm just not even blocking today. Of course, it'd be nice if they actually, like, gave you an indication they were about to do that like they did in the previous game, but I guess we can't have our cake and eat it too. Yeah, so far this has been pretty easy. Not that I was especially challenged by the previous game. Maybe people didn't. Maybe people had too much of a hard time getting used to the combat sandbox in the previous game, and so they opted for a more simple style. But again, I don't really respect that. I feel like the previous game was perfect the way it was. Again, I just tried to dash with the R1 button. So as you can see, there's a sector that's being contested up here, and for some reason it's being... Oh, okay, here I guess here's the Extella maneuver tutorial, it looks like. And I'm not really grasping how to do this. Maybe I have to do both those moves simultaneously or something? I don't know, I'll try it. So here is a almost like a shadow clone of Ku, as it were. If I can be honest, from an artistic decision, I hate this because to me it just looks lazy, and I hate that they do it in Grand Order as well. That they would just recycle assets and turn them into a like a shadow clone like that. I'd rather just fight the real servant or fight an aggressor. Like, they already made the models for the aggressors. Just have a Lancer aggressor. It's not hard. Not even difficult to defeat. Okay. Oh, look, it's our best friend, the plants. And they're going to spawn more Ku clones for some ungodly, unknown reason. It also may be possible that not all of the servants that Nero had on her team in the previous game will be necessarily allied with us in this game, because they did make it pretty clear at the end of the previous game how some of them went their separate ways and just decided to do what they felt like. So they're not necessarily obligated to be on her side this time around. That was harder than it had to be. I also don't know if she has the shield this time around. No, she doesn't have it, which may explain why we don't have access to that ability to throw the shield. It looks like we did pretty well. I don't know if that means we're going to be fighting the real Ku in here anytime soon. And I'm assuming the combat sandbox will get better as we level up too. Maybe we'll unlock more like inherent abilities, so we don't have to just rely on the ones that are part of our combo chain. Oh my! It is Francis Drake, our favorite pirate waifu. Look at Nero's face. That's probably all of our faces right now. So we haven't seen you since the first game. So for those of you who don't know, Francis Drake is coming back, making a reappearance since the first extra, and she's a pretty great character. I always like Francis Drake because it's a gender bend that actually makes sense in a universe that has a bunch of meaningless gender bends. So I think it was pretty well done. The name is kind of either gender, and again, just the fact that the whole legend, like, she does actually make a pretty good pirate, even though I'm sure it's just like a caricature of what people think female pirates were. But it's actually, I think it's awesome. Like, the way they design her character is pretty much the perfect gender bend. So it looks like all the map data we have is virtually the same as last time. Although I'm not sure what the regime matrix is supposed to be here, because I'm not seeing it at the top. So I don't know what our actual objective is necessarily. There's another Ku clone. The combat is growing on me. Like, it's... I still don't think I'm going to like it as much as the original game, but it's definitely growing on me, and I'm getting used to this awful camera, too. Maybe it's just because I'm playing as Nero too, where I'm just like, yes, this combat makes sense. I have no gripes with it. But yeah, playing as Charlemagne is probably not as much fun. I'll probably try Tamamo next. Okay, that's another sector captured. Do I want to go this way? Let's go back here and see if we can pick a fight with whoever's in that corner. I think maybe Drake is in this corner. There's an aggressor that's blocking the way. Try to use our age-old strategy of beating these guys by jumping in the air and using our aerial attacks, and then dodging away from them before they have the ability to use their attacks. So we can just use our... There we go. It still works! It still works in the sequel, guys! Man, that seems really overpowered just to be able to cast that whenever you want. I get that there's a cooldown on it, but I like that being the very, 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 very end of Nero's combo in the previous game. Oh! Ho, 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 ho. That was nice. Can we see that again like 20 times? Alright, so here's our first boss fight segment, I guess, so I might as well go ahead and deploy my Moondrive gauge. I lost my lock on her. There we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's cool as hell. I didn't know that was a thing. We also picked up a random Excalibur, which gave us an attack up. So I guess maybe that's the new version of the Extella maneuver, and you can do it whenever you have a your Moondrive activated and you hit one of those abilities. So we beat Drake. Okay, that was way too easy. We still have to clear the sector, though. So what's really funny, just a little bit of context for you guys, I recently just started playing the first Uncharted, and I thought it was really funny when... Tamamo, what are you doing? I guess she's activating her Noble Phantasm in a nearby sector. I don't know why we have to be witness to this. I think it's pretty cool that the NPC-controlled servants can activate their Noble Phantasms, but okay. Good job, Tamamo. We appreciate your support. You're not useless for a change. Anyway, I was playing the first Uncharted, and I noticed how it begins with the main character being like, oh yeah, lost Francis Drake stuff, and I was like, huh, yeah, that's funny, because his last name is Drake. I guess it does make sense. And I wonder if that was like the intent behind his character in the first place, was to make that joke, or if it was just something they realized they could do after they named him. But it was, I'm so used to Fate that I was so used to them referring to Francis Drake as she. So when I was playing Uncharted, they kept referring to Francis Drake as a male. I was like, oh wait, yeah, it is a gender bend. But like I said before, it's a gender bend that I feel like really works. You don't even question it when you see it in the game. Alright, so aggressors managed to make their way into this sector, and I just cleared them out. So let's go transition back over to this one. There appears to be a plant or something that's trying to transition its way over there. Oh, maybe not. One angry boy. We better not get too close to him. So it looks like our abilities may be growing in power the longer we use that gauge, because now there's 2 swords next to them, which may imply something. I'm not sure. Lancelot's going to be pretty unpredictable. I'm not sure what he's going to be capable of. Trying to figure out how to use my gauge at the bottom there. There we go. Oh man! Charlemagne is running it too! This is so cool! Get wrecked, Lancelot! I'm sure Lancelot is strong, but he's not strong enough to fight 2 Saber-class servants at the same time strong. Yes, commenter whose title I can't read, I know that Francis Drake was a real pirate. Felt that kind of goes without saying if you played the original Extra game, and you go to the library and read up on it. I thought we had a code cast equipped we could actually use our healing, but it doesn't look like we're going to need it, honestly. Wow, that's really overpowered. I may need to bump it up to hard mode there. And again, I'm not sure if they're like trying to get me to go in a linear path to finish this chapter or what's going on, but I'm having to double back to the very beginning, which may include me having to fight Drake again. Yeah, that definitely sounds like her. Looks like there may be the ability to counter enemy moves with the abilities we can just randomly cast, because I used it there when that aggressor was about to attack me, and it actually blocked and countered the enemy's attack, which is pretty cool. Man, that just seems so overpowered. Because not only does it do that, but it allows us to... Oh, what is she doing? Nice. I think that's it. I think we're done. I hope so. Looks like Tamamo is fighting Medusa. Maybe we can try to go there. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't put Hercules in the game too. That would have been awesome. Although I'm pretty happy with the characters they did pick. I think Lancelot was a pretty good choice. All right, let's unleash our noble phantasm against Medusa and see if she survives it. I'm so happy right now, you guys have no idea. And again, I'm sure that will look a lot better without the frame slowdown on the PS4 version. Alright, and the boss servant is Karna. I guess we gotta figure out why Karna has become this way. Like, what happened to him and what happened to their servants. So Karna's pretty OP as a servant, as we learned in Apocrypha, but he's nothing we can't handle here in game. Especially with all three of our servants fighting him at one time. Oh man, that is so cool. It's pretty abusive, but it's just really cool. I'll take it. It also seems like they did away with the cipher keys in order to cast your double phantasm, like in the previous game, in favor of just having it be like some kind of gauge that fills up or whatever. He definitely seems to be a lot more tenacious than the other servants we fought. Probably on purpose. Whoa, that was a pretty hard hit. Things are getting a little chaotic over here in the corner. Got a yakisoba bread. Man, it gets pretty chaotic there with all three servants fighting him at one time. Charlemagne's kind of getting in my way. It seems like the movement speed gradually increases too. Ooh, this is new. This is really new. I think I'm gonna win though. Yep, I won. Well, it didn't come out of the corner there so we can fight him properly. Ow. Yeah, I guess they traded the fact that the combat sandbox is a little bit less combo heavy and made it to where the enemies do hit you harder. Oh, this is really cool. Definitely taking some characteristics from some other Muso games. That was a very Basara thing just there that we witnessed. Okay, looks like we managed to beat Karna, so maybe we can figure out what the hell's going on with him now. So, we have a comment that says, servants only need to defeat enemies while in their moon drive to activate, to make them drop the golden magical spheres to fill their gauge. Allows the activation of the noble phantasm. That's pretty cool. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. I didn't mind having to pick up the cipher key things from around the map to be able to activate it, but that being said, I think that's kind of a nice touch to be able to gradually get it through attrition. Oh boy! It's your boy Mullet Man over here. Michelle's gonna absolutely lose her shit at this. So, obviously we love Archer. He's like my namesake. Favorite character of all time. But she hates this hairdo. The anime mullet that he has going on here. There's also no real reason for it. It's like a very sudden design difference. Everything else about his outfit I like. I like the whole like random Triforce Illuminati thing. And some of his alternate outfits are pretty cool too. He has a very like traditionally Asian aesthetic outfit that he wears in the DLC outfits. Was that an Umu? I think I heard an Umu. Oh dear. Tonga, looks like your domain is getting rained on. So that boy Brandon says that Archer's new look implies that it lets you know a lot of time has passed since the last war, which I guess that's the idea, but you don't really get that from anyone else's appearance. Everybody else looks exactly the same. And Tiny Altera is still Tiny Altera, so it must have just been an intentional decision on his part to look more edgy. I think it's a nice change. It's definitely not my preference, but it's cool to see them do something radically different with the character.
奴らの包囲を今度こそ水泡に帰すぞ。
いや待て皇帝陛下、その息は買うがここは落ち着くべきだ。
確かに俺たちはマスターのそばを離れられない。
NPC や魔術師の指揮官もいますが、サーバント相手では勝負になりませんからね。
そういうことだ。少なくとも
そう言われると苦しい。
そういうこと
Oh no.
お力になれる。
Oh no.
ここまで気配を悟らせずに。
我が神名はアルジュナ。
It's Arjuna. Or the trash can as we know him.
皆様の軍に加えていただければと思い馳せ参じました。アルジュナ、インド神話の大英雄じゃねえか。遥か東方の神話に登場し、無数の侵略者を打ち砕き、正義をなし悪王を倒し、民に平和をもたらした英雄だ。なかなかお詳しいですね。ああ、こう見えても昔はアラビアの王様とだって文通してたんでね。ならばお分かりでしょう。ある男がいます。その男は今大抵というものに組して。
So those of you who have heard me talk about the game before have heard me talk about the fact that they intentionally pick servants to go in this game that would create a rivalry with an existing servant already in the game. So they went with Arjuna here intentionally to create a rivalry with Karna. For those of you that don't know their background, they're both from Indian mythology, and there's actually depictions of Arjuna killing Karna, which has angered more than a few of us, I'm sure.
なあマスター、こいつと一緒に戦ってもいいだろう。ありがとうございます、マスター。我が部隊にはサーバントもおります。別動。
That was a loud umu. Yeah, but there was also adding Lancelot as a rivalry for Gawain. Adding Drake was a rivalry for Robin Hood, who they also added in the game. And I guess for Nero, if that counts. And then adding Sasha is a rivalry for Ku. Adding Gilles de Rais was a rivalry for Jeanne d'Arc, who was already in the game. Adding Darius was a rivalry for Iskander, who was already in the game. Alright, I have no idea what these options are, so I'm picking the top one. Oh, look, there he is. Oh my god. His portrait is hideous, and I love it. No! Do not touch my child.
なぜセラフを信仰するのです？
知れたこと、我が望みを叶えるため。
それはあなたが命を傷つけてまで願うことですか？
そうだな。貴様には永遠に理解できまい。特にこのセラフではなおさらだ。よか。
ああ、でもそれを否定することはあなたは私ではなく、だからあなたはオラクルを選んだのです。
Alright, so that is going to be it for this time. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I am very much looking forward to how this game is going to play out. I'm probably going to continue to test play a little bit more on my actual Vita, on my handheld, and then when we get to the next part, I'll be a little bit more prepared for what's about to happen, and in terms of gameplay decisions, maybe play a little bit around with the controls, figure out what the optimal setup is going to be in terms of equipment and passive abilities and things like that. Maybe experiment with some of the other servants that are playable, like Charlemagne, and figure out how to optimize his gameplay instead of just playing as Nero, who I already know how she behaves. So, of course, there's going to be some things I'm not going to be totally fluent on because I'm not going to be able to understand all of the Japanese dialogue. So there's going to be some misunderstandings created from that just naturally. So I'm not going to be able to understand the story fully or a lot of the untranslated Japanese text. But that's okay. I'll do my best to navigate my way through the game. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next